All right, thank you, Ashley. I'm seeing a pop-up here that says attendees still on hold. Should I click start broadcast now, or we
Um,
started?
it appears to me that everyone is
Okay,
that it has started.
good
Re-
deal. All right, well, I'm ready to go here. So, thank you, Ashley, and thank you all for joining me on today's webcast. I'm usually very thorough and not into the whole brevity thing, but since we are on limited time today, I will keep the PowerPoint to a minimum. That way we can see more of the software. So my assumption is that you are all here today because you have found out you now have access to AutoCAD Architecture included with your AutoCAD licenses. Um, Therefore, I wanted to start off by pointing out some of the basics of AutoCAD so I can contrast that in the next slide with differences between AutoCAD versus AutoCAD architecture. So AutoCAD, or plain old vanilla AutoCAD, as we refer to it in the industry, has been around for a long, long time and is an absolute giant in the world of 2D drafting. So with that, we traditionally use it to draw things like lines, arcs, polylines, and even hatch patterns to represent what we need to draw. You can even take this one step further and group certain elements together as blocks for more sophisticated use. Another nice feature of AutoCAD is it allows you the ability to organize your drawings by layers. That way you can now tell what items are actually supposed to be and control things like their visibility and line weights. We can then create a layout with a title block, add our drawings to that sheet at a desired scale, and print our sheets. After reviewing a typical workflow of plain old vanilla AutoCAD, let's take a minute to introduce AutoCAD architecture. Essentially, it is an AutoCAD-based product with tools that allow architects and building designers to model their buildings in 3D, and includes a massive set of tools dedicated to creating a set of architectural drawings. Previously, it was commonly referred to as a vertical, of which AutoCAD architecture is one of several verticals, or as we call them now, tool sets. There is one for MEP, plant design, and a few others for different types of engineering disciplines. I am not 100% on this, but I always assumed they were called verticals because most of them are three-dimensional and allow you to build models vertically in the Z direction, or at least conceptually, because you are adding a higher level of functionality to regular AutoCAD. Now, AutoCAD architecture is model-based. What does that mean? Well, it means when I want to draw a wall, I place an actual wall, not just a bunch of lines and hatch patterns to represent a wall, but I actually model a wall, and AutoCAD architecture will display it as if I had actually drawn a wall on my plan with all the associated components I need to show, such as brick hatching, stud layer, gypsum wallboard, and so on. It is a parametric modeler, meaning that I can manipulate its physical properties with certain parameters. If I take the wall I placed, find the height parameter in the properties box, I can actually drive the geometry by changing the value in the properties palette. As far as intelligence goes, you can create things like door and window schedules based on actual components placed in the model. Then, of course, you have an entire slew of modeled objects and details dedicated to architectural design and construction documents. So there was a lot going on with that last slide, and I will show most of that again once we get into the software. But now that you have a basic understanding of the differences between AutoCAD and AutoCAD architecture, I wanted to talk about a common point of confusion. So we are talking about two separate products here. If you already have AutoCAD installed, you will need to install AutoCAD Architecture. It is not just an add-on, it is a totally separate download and install. Furthermore, you can absolutely have both products installed at the same time. In case you just need to do some lines, arcs, and circles, by all means use regular AutoCAD. If you are doing building design, for sure use AutoCAD Architecture. If you are looking for AutoCAD Architecture, you can find your download at manage.autodesk.com. So hopefully this looks familiar to everyone, but this is where you can download your software. I clicked on the Products and Services tab, then the down arrow next to AutoCAD Architecture. Then you can select the version you would like to download. Notice again the URL, manage.autodesk.com, and I included that for your reference again at the top of the slide. All right, so I know we are short on time today, scheduled only for 30 minutes or so, so thank you for your patience on the PowerPoint. Now I say we take a look at some of the software here. All right, so this is AutoCAD Architecture. One of the first things you're going to notice here is that up at the top, and of course I've got America's favorite plumbing consultant as always to help us out. You notice instead of just AutoCAD, it now says AutoCAD Architecture. So you see we're working in a totally different product here. It's going to look different than you're used to seeing. One thing to keep in mind about AutoCAD Architecture is it's very much product based with unless you're using sheet sets with vanilla AutoCAD, you're used to having a bunch of separate DWG files. With AutoCAD Architecture, it's really more of a conglomeration of a bunch of separate files that it groups together for you, and that's managed partly by this project browser here. Today we're going to be working with this research lab. You can add in a rendering and some basic project information and things like that. So the floor plan view that we're looking at here looks just like a normal regular floor plan, but when I select one of these elements, this wall, for example, it selects it as an object, not just a bunch of separate lines, hatch patterns, and if I was going to select the door, arcs, and things like that, these are actually object elements. And right now we're looking at a slice of our building through the first floor. If I look at it in 3D, you can see we're actually looking at working with a 3D model here. So I'm going to go back to my top view here, go back to plan, and let's talk a little bit about some of the modeling elements that we can work with. So let's say I just delete this wall here, and maybe I want to add in another wall. Well, this is my tool palette right here, and it's got all sorts of things that we can work with. These are right out of the box, and I'm going to show you some of the great things that comes with it. One of them is a whole set of walls that we can use. If I would like to model a wall, I can find the one I want. In this case, we'll do stud with jip on either side. I can drag this into my model, click where I need it to go, add it in here. I'm going to draw it in a little more. And you can see it'll automatically connect. If I'd been zoomed in a little better, it would have connected for me. So if I zoom in here, you can see all the layers, and it's actually a real modeled element. Let's take a look at our element properties here. You can see the style here listed. You can see the width, the base height, and some of these parameters are modifiable. Maybe I really wanted this to be at 9'6" instead of 10 feet. I can modify that. 9'6", hit enter, and that will adjust it for me. Let's say I want to add in a door. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can kind of see what we're doing here. If I go over to the Doors tab on my tool palettes, let's take a standard single hinged door here, select the wall where I want to place it, and notice before I even place it, I can decide the orientation here, click, and it's placed. Notice on the placement here, before I even add it into a wall, I've got it defined so it's relative to the grid, it's got an offset, and I have an automatic 6-inch offset, which allows me to get it 6 inches from the end of the wall, as you see as I've placed here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this door that we've placed. So notice this, it actually not only placed the modeled element of the door, but it cut out an opening in the wall. If I were to move this door inside this wall, notice it'll infill, move where the cut is located. Let's take a couple seconds to look at the properties here. So we can modify the height and width parameters if we'd like. We've also got some standard sizes that come as part of this door. So we could choose the sizes that we want. This will allow us to not select or not size something that can't be manufactured. Let's take a look at the window tool now. This is pretty similar. So let's say I want to place a window in here. Now with this, I have the ability to type in the offset that I want. Maybe I want this to be 11 feet right here. I can type that in, and it will place it as such. So let's take a look at this in 3D and see what I've done here. All right. So here's our wall that we've created with our door and the window here. Now here's another thing that's kind of nice. I didn't show this when I placed it, but I could set the head or sill height vertically if I'd like. So maybe if I wanted the head height to be a little higher, I could bump that up. All right, so we'll go back to our top view here into our floor plan. Yeah, one other thing that I want to show with the door, even after you've placed one, you can use the flip toggle to get the swing going the other way, and you'll see that with a lot of other components as well. Let's take a look at the stair tool. So for this, I'm just going to show this kind of off to the side here. Let's say for this, we'll use the built-in stair tool. And I'm going to do a multi-landing stair here. So I'll just draw a few risers, put in my landing, and then finish the stair out here. And you can see it draws it in really nicely in plan. But if I look at it in 3D, you can see we've got a very nice modeled stair element. Let's say you'd like to add some railings to that. Well, we can go ahead and do that by clicking the railing tool, selecting our stairs, and it's automatically going to add one in there. Let's say I want to place another one in. Railing, maybe I'll do a 3-foot offset to put one on the inside. Select my stair again, and there we go. So the railing is associated with the stair. One nice thing here is if I were to host this maybe offset a little bit, notice it's just kind of floating there because it doesn't, it's kind of inside the stair. So if I undo that, get it back to maybe a 3-foot offset, it'll go back to where we had it. So I was just showing you how everything is nice and associated here. All right. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything here. So let's do one more example with our walls, and maybe we'll add a roof to the project here. So if I go to the walls tool again, I'll just grab one of these, and if you draw your building clockwise, the brick should be on the correct side here. And then of course you can just you could use the trim or fillet tools to get these to clean up, or just drag the end grips as I did. So let's say we want to put a roof on here. You can find the roof tool, right click on it, and apply it to the walls that you've got created here. So I'll select my walls, hit enter. We will not erase the geometry, and there we go. We've got a nice hipped roof. Let's check that out in 3D real quick. Looks pretty good. Go back to my plan view. So let's say you want a gable end rather than a hipped roof. You could drag your grip over to the edge here, and now you've got a gable end over here. So the roof looks great right now, but we kind of need to clean up our wall here. That's no problem. We can select the wall, right click on it, roof floor line, modify roof line, and then choose auto project down here. Select the roof and hit enter, and it'll clean that up for us. All right, let's see if I forgot anything else here. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and delete some of this extra stuff that I popped in here. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do it in plan view here. And then I'll talk a little bit more about how the project goes together. All right, so we'll take what we've got here, maybe save that. And exit my construct here. All right, so Project Navigator, this is kind of how we work with some of the important project settings, and it's kind of like how we work with everything in the project settings. And for example, on the project tab up here, we can set our levels and things like that up. So if I open up maybe my ISO view here, this will give us a good idea of what's going on. So this building project that we have in 3D is going to look something like this. It's going to take a second here to generate. Now on my project, I could add in another level here. So if I go ahead and do that, I'll right click in here, add a level above, name it accordingly. Maybe this is 5th floor. We'll call it 5 for the ID. That should be 4. All right, we'll save these. All right, so we made some changes. That's okay. So let's take a look now. So some things got rearranged here, but that's okay. We can fix all that. If we go to the views over here, let's look at our exterior ISO. So we need to make a new construct here for the new floor that we added. So what I can do is copy my 4th floor and apply it to my 5th floor. Looks like I messed up my numbering, but that's okay. We can work around that. So I'll rename this, and we'll just call it 05 5th floor. Repath everything. Most of this is just done automatically for us. If I go back to my ISO view, check the properties, we can turn that on. Everything's on here, everything should be showing. And it'll give it a minute and it should generate here. Looks good. Okay, so that's how you would add another level. You would just kind of duplicate the floor plate from the one below and repath everything. All right, so let's take a look at our Views tab, and maybe we want to do another floor plan. We've got our constructs here for each level, but maybe we need to show a different type of floor plan. We can add that by creating a new view. Right click on here, say New View Drawing, General, Next, turn on all the floors. Next, make sure they're on, Finish. And we'll open up our new view here. Let's take a look at what's going on here. All right, so we're looking at our new floor plan that we've created. One thing I like to show is if we zoom in here, we've got different levels of detail. If we're doing a construction document set, we'll want a probably medium level of detail. If we're doing a presentation view, you can switch it to that, and we've got a nice poche here. So you've got all sorts of different ways you can look at your project. Let's go ahead and take a look at maybe adding a little door schedule here. I think we've got some time for that. So let's find our tool palette. So if you right click on your tool palettes, you can find all sorts of different things that you have here. You can add in things like revision clouds, keynotes, text, dimensions, callouts, and sections, which we'll get to in a minute, tags, but we've got scheduling too. So this will kind of give you an idea of the intelligence built in. So let's say I click on door schedule, select the part of the model I want, hit enter, and draw that in. And let's zoom in on here. And we've scheduled every door in this plan. So all of the doors are populated. Of course, we'll have to go in and add some user-defined fields as well. But it's a very nice capability of the software. Let's go ahead and see what else. So if we had time, we could do a window schedule, wall schedule, and so on and so forth. But let's see what happens if we want to cut a section through our model now. We can do this by going to the callouts up here and maybe choosing the section mark. Click once up top, once below, hit enter. Now define how far I want to show my section. We'll draw it in our current drawing here, and I can click to place it wherever I want. Now it's actually cutting a live section of my model here. And if I zoom in, you can take a nice look at this. And let's go ahead and do this. So now that we've got that section, if we go to the Sheets tab, we can actually create a sheet for this. So let's say I right-click on the Architectural tab. But you know what? I better save this first, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get that section. So we'll save our construct. Right-click, New Sheet. So maybe this is sheet number A300, sections. Say OK. And you'll see that it populates our title block here. I'll show you this in a second. So sections, sheet number, whatever information we've had. Now this is the best part here. If I go and find that section that I created, all I have to do is just drag it, drop it onto my sheet, and I've now placed it on here, and the view title has populated with the view name, detail number, and view scale. So you can see that this is a pretty superior way to put together a set of drawings. And I think one thing I left out here is I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things in the tool palettes that make this pretty awesome for putting a set together. If you look at the detailing tab, you've got some basics, concrete, we've got all sorts of detail items built in. Some of this stuff is modeling, some of this is just detail items. For example, maybe you've got a section detail and you want to add in some plywood. I would do this probably in a live view, but just for purposes, I can show you what that's going to look like. Maybe you've got a roof drain detail that you're working on. You could place this in your model. Of course, you would place this in a model view and work with it from there. I probably should do that. Maybe if we go back to one of our new views here, we could do that. So I would just place any of these in my section. One other thing I want to point out is everything gets placed on a layer automatically for you. So AutoCAD Architecture recognizes that this is a detail, so it places it on that detail. These walls, all your walls and doors and things like that, these will all get placed on, I should probably go to the constructs for that. These will all go to the correct layer. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. That all gets taken care of for you. So it knows that this is on the wall layer, the door, same thing, door layer. Back to the tool palettes here. All sorts of things that we can load in. Let's take one more look at this. There's something called the content browser. There's so many components that come with the software out of the box. Let's say I'm looking for some casework. I could do a quick search in here and it'll load all the components available. And a lot of these are three-dimensional. So if I want to actually model these, I can just place them in my drawing or add them to my tool palettes. So it comes back with a whole list of all these three-dimensional items I could place in my model. So since we're pretty much running short on time here, I think I pretty much covered everything that I really wanted to show today. And I think we can open it up for some questions and answers. And I'm pretty sure if you had any questions, I think Rick was already going through and answering them. But feel free to keep them coming if you need to.
So far, there's only been a couple of questions. I've answered both of them, but just in case other people don't see them, because I think some of the questions were done privately. One of the questions was, have you used Siemens Factory CAD and Factory Flow, and are they compatible with AutoCAD Architecture? I myself have not done it. I don't believe Dan has either, although he may tell you otherwise. But I did look on the Factory CAD website, and according to their website, it's compatible with AutoCAD Architecture. They didn't tell what versions of Factory CAD and what versions of AutoCAD Architecture are compatible. They just said it was compatible.
Gotcha.
question that just came in was, does AutoCAD create their own layer list, or do you have to create it? I'll answer that one since off the top of my head. There's a layer control. I'll tell you what, maybe Dan can go there for us real quick. Go under Manage there, Dave, or Dan, I'm sorry.
That's right. All right, let's take a look.
On your Manage tab, and you'll see the Style Manager. And under Documentation Objects, I believe it is, you'll see, okay, look under Multi-Purpose Objects then. It's one or the other. Yeah, see where it says Layer Key Styles. So this is the layers that come out of the box, which are set if you where what objects go to what. It's basically a pointer system that was set up by the Architectural Association that governs this, and it's supposed to be a standard. So it's basically taking, if it's this type object, this is the layer it goes on. You can modify this to your own standards if you don't like it, and you can create your own layer keys completely if you need to. So that's the way it's handling the layers. Can you show how to print out the door schedule? Basically, it's just, I'll let you answer that, Dan, if you want to.
Yeah, so right, I should be able to just place that view on the sheet and print it out. So this is just a view. Did I have a, wait a minute, let's see here. Yeah, let's go to that sheet.
I could explain. Basically what you do is just like you did with that section cut, you can take a view of a particular schedule and place it on a sheet. Once it's on the sheet, you would print it just like any other drawing. You could actually create the view to be the entire drawing of a bunch of schedules that are all on one drawing, because the schedules do not have to be on the same drawing as the view. Or you could just create a view area of that schedule, and then you can drag it just like the section cut. And the view area is defined just like a view in AutoCAD. Can casework be modified? Yes, it can. It's just AutoCAD 3D blocks that have been put on steroids. So you can modify the 3D blocks themselves and change it that way. You could also create your own, and everything is a little more complex than just a normal AutoCAD blocks, because there's some setup in the style that has to be done. But that's something that would be covered in training, maybe not specifically for casework, but it's the same concept for anything custom. If my coworker and I are on shared drawings, can I use vanilla while he uses vertical? Yes, you can, as long as they're not the exact same DWG file. It's still AutoCAD, so there'll be a lock file on a DWG file that is opened, but you can open up a regular AutoCAD architecture drawing in AutoCAD. They would need the object enablers installed on their computer in order to see the AutoCAD architecture objects, and they wouldn't be able to modify any of the AutoCAD architecture objects. They would just be able to draw 2D items and things like that. They could erase the AutoCAD architecture objects, but they couldn't modify them. In other words, they couldn't change a door height or a window sill height or something like that, or the way the window looks. Can you import the schedule to an Excel sheet as well? Yes, you can. They are just regular tables in AutoCAD that have been populated, so you could export those to Excel the same way you would an AutoCAD table. And so far, that's the last question. One more. How does AutoCAD architecture differ from Revit? And I'm going to turn that over to Dan here.
So basically, it's just two different products. There's a lot of crossover. You know, they're both modelers. They both associate information together. One is just AutoCAD based. The other one is Revit based. And that's really it. You know, there's a lot of it is external forces. A lot of companies prefer or require a Revit deliverable. Some require an AutoCAD or non-specific deliverable. Just things like that. I could elaborate on that a little more. I would say some things could be more powerful in Revit as far as ease of getting three-dimensional views and renderings and things like that, and updating the drawings, but they both pretty much at the very core, do the same thing. It's putting together a solid set of construction documents.
Is the difference about file size? Do you want to take that one or me?
Yeah, I would say so. Like this one right here, we haven't really done a lot of sheets on this data set yet, and it's still getting kind of large. I mean, last time I looked at the folder, it was definitely like 15 or 20 megs already, but it's probably all in still going to be a little less than a Revit file once full CDs are done, but it might be kind of comparable. But
yeah, basically,
each individual file is smaller. Let's put it that way. Each individual file you're working on is going to be like, you know, a couple hundred K at the very most.
So basically the way I've always looked at it is a Revit file being one file is going to be pretty good in size. Each drawing in AutoCAD Architecture individually will be much smaller, but when you look at the project as a whole, it's going to be relatively about the same size as the Revit model. So you're not really going to be gaining anything in file size. It's just a group of drawings that are all making the project together, being handled by the project manager. And Revit is just a single model. And that's what makes the difference between how they work also, and why some function, while some things will be more instant in Revit because you make the change in the model, it changes everywhere. Here you may have to set up an additional command to make it update section. So if you change the model, that section won't update automatically. You have to hit a command that says update sections, and then it updates because it's AutoCAD, not a single file. Revit is a single model file database, ACA or interface. Yeah, that's just what we just said. Thank you for your input. How can you work as a team? Again, it would just be working on individual drawings. You know, if you can divide it up into several different constructs, like in this particular one, each floor is a different construct. When you get into different views, one person could be working on a construct while somebody else is working on the view because it's using XREF. So if he makes a change in the construct, you just get a message saying update that view. So it'd be just each person working on an individual drawing, no two people working on the same drawing. What's the name of the model? That's the name of the drawing files. So it can change and be whatever you want to make it per drawing. You would think of the project name as being what your Revit, if you're comparing it to Revit, the Revit file name would be equivalent to the project file name on this end, and then each drawing being individual parts of that drawing. So individual views, individual sheets, things like that are in comparison. Do the tool palettes have a library and can it be modified? The tool palettes are working off of the content browser. So it's pulling information from the content browser. You can add additional information from the content browser to tool palettes. You can also create your own tool palettes and manage them for an entire company through the content browser. So in other words, you could have one person who is the parent of all the tool palettes and create a bunch of custom tool palettes that you need in your company. You save those in a content browser location on your network, and everybody else reads that. So if you make a change as the parent to the tool palette, everybody in the company will get that change. Now they'll have to refresh their tool palette. There's a button that would show up on their tool palette that says refresh, but once they hit refresh, everyone in the company, whether it be 3 people or 200 people, would get the same change. So it's a lot easier to manage your tool palettes because you're doing it through the content browser itself. That was the last question so far. We'll give everybody about a minute or so here to see if there are any more. Looks like that's about the last question we're going to get. So, Dan, I'll let you close it out with Ashley.
Yeah, I think that was all I had. So thanks a lot, Rick, for taking the questions. And I guess, Ashley, if you want to take it from here.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks, guys. This will conclude our broadcast. If you think of additional questions later, you can just simply reply to that confirmation or reminder email you received from GoToWebinar, and we can get those to Dan or Rick or whoever to get your questions answered. Once again, if you could take a few moments to fill out the survey, it will just pop up as we close down today. And thanks for attending, and have a great day, everybody.